What's up, YouTube? It's Ghostwriter15 here again, back at it with another Edison format video. This week's video is gonna be a deck profile of a second place list that got second place at a PS5 tournament this weekend. It was piloted by Fresh IRL, aka Kevin Malone. He's a really good player, so I'm not surprised that he topped. What I am surprised about is that he topped with this macro stun deck. This is usually a deck that we don't see too often, but if you really think about it, this deck can actually do a lot. A lot of the meta decks revolve around using the graveyard, so this deck stops stuff like Treeborn Frog. It can stop cards like Whitestone. It can stop cards like Card Trooper, Vortex Trooper. It can also stop cards like Dandelion. So, you get the point. This deck can do a lot against graveyard decks. So he opted to play one Gale as his only tuner. That makes sense, as Gale is probably the best tuner in the format. Then he played only two DD Survivors, which to me is a little confusing. You would think that you would want to play three for a deck that banishes, but I'm no expert with this deck. He opted for two, so that might be correct. Then he played three DD Warrior Lady, which also makes sense in a deck that likes to banish. Then he's playing two Exiled Force to stop cards like Raiko or Hamster. And he opted to play two Guardian Iados, which is like a Cyber Dragon, but better in this deck. Then he opted to play Morphine Jar, which is really good in this deck. You play a lot of back row, so you can set all your back row and just plus really hard with this card. And he also played one Grand Mole. I think Grand Mole is really underrated in this deck, in this format in general. It's really good against synchro heavy decks like Vayu Turbo. Then he played three Thunder King, which is probably the best anti-meta card, so it makes sense to play an anti-meta card in an anti-meta deck. Then for the spells, he only played a few, and he decided to play three-dimensional fissure. That makes sense. This is the heart and soul of the deck. This is how you keep special summoning back your DD Survivor. Then he plays one Typhoon, that's a staple. One Rhoda, a staple in decks that play Warriors. And onto the traps, he played a lot. He played two Bottomless, that's a staple. Three Dark Bribe, which is really good to protect your defissures and your macros from getting destroyed by stuff like Heavy Storm. Then three D Prisons. Banishing cards is really good in this deck, so he opted to play three. He only played two Macrocosmos, which at first was confusing to me a bit, but then I thought about it and I realized that opening too many macros and defissures can be bricky. You don't want too many in your hand. He opted for 3D Fissure, I'm assuming, because it's a spell and it's a lot faster than traps. So then he played one Mirror Force and three Sakus. These cards become deep prisons when you have macro or deep fissure on the field, so that's really good. He opted to play one Solemn Judgment, which is really strong in this deck to protect your floodgates from being destroyed. And speaking of protecting your floodgates, he opted to play three Starlight Road, which is really strong in this deck. Basically, Heavy Storm is almost never going to resolve against his deck. And then for his last two cards, he played one Torrential and one Trap Dust Shoot, which are basically staples. For the side deck, he played two Beast King Barbaros, which is really strong with Skill Drain. That's another card he decided to play on the side. Two GK Spy. This is for decks like Hero Beat and Blackwings to wall them out. That way you can stall out to find your floodgates. Then he played one Heavy Storm. I'm assuming this is to go second. He played two Shield Crush. I guess this is for cards like Dupe Frog or Snowman Eater. I would have personally played Soul Taker instead, but I mean, he opted for this card and it worked for him. Then he played one Light Imprisoning Mirror for Light Sworns and Fairies, 3 Masquerade Strict for Frogs, 2 Skill Drain for any deck that relies on monster effects, and then 2 Zing Zang Hoos. I was surprised to see this card in his side deck, but when I saw him playing it, it did a lot of work. This card is usually sided against Go format decks, but apparently he made it look like it also works in Edison format. The extra deck is pretty standard stuff. 1 Cataster, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, 1 Black Rose, 1 Armor Master, 1 Brio, 1 Colossal, 1 Goyo, 1 Android, 1 Mistworm, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend, 3 Stardust, 1 Dot Ruler, and 1 Airbellum. So that completes his list. Well done by Fresh IRL. Congrats on the 2nd place finish with this unique deck. To be honest, I'm terrified of this deck, and I don't know if it's going to become more popular. It looks painful to play against, but who knows? This might just be a one-time thing. We'll just have to wait and see what next tournament happens and see the results. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and then make sure to like and subscribe for more Edison format content. Until next time, this is Ghostwriter 15 signing out.